Hello and welcome to Sports 360, your one-stop destination for all big sporting events across the globe. Here you will get an exact analysis, information and interaction with top athletes. The COVID-19 pandemic has seen Premier League spending dip significantly. The January transfer window, 5 Premier League clubs didn't spend at all, including Chelsea and Leicester, while Liverpool filled their centre-back void. Arsenal cleared their house, while Tottenham, Sheffield United could regret a lack of business, while West Ham spent more than 20 La Liga clubs combined. In this edition of Sports 360, we will take a look at the Premier League's winner and losers in the January transfer window. Postponement of Australia's scheduled tour of South Africa due to COVID-19 related health concern has secured New Zealand's qualification for the ICC Test Championship final. Now 3 teams, India, England and Australia, are in the race for the ICC World Test Championship finals in Lord's. Here we will take a look at the qualification scenario for each team. As bio-bubble life drags on, psychologists say athletes need even more support. Cricket's long tours away from home, family have often caused problems in the past, but in the restrictions of the quarantine and bubble life are posing extra difficulties. Union Sports Minister Kiren Rijiju inaugurated the new Fit India Mission Office in Delhi. Rijiju says Fit India movement has become a truly people's movement as envisioned by the Prime Minister Narendra Modi. And apart from this, we also have our regular segments, Goal of the Week, Player of the Week and the Sporting Moments of the Week. But first up, the cover story we are tracking this week. Another January transfer window has come and gone, though blockbuster moves were few and far between, and there will be plenty of intriguing deals to pique the interest of supporters around the world. Sports 360 breaks down the winners and losers from the past month of transfer business.
Premier League clubs have concluded all of their businesses for the season after the January transfer window came to close on Monday. In a season ravaged by the COVID-19 pandemic, top 5 sides limited their spending to £70 million, down from £230 million in the previous window, as football continues to deal with an ongoing crisis. Winners: West Ham. David Moyes has been one of the busiest managers during the January, with plenty of noticeable arrivals and departures from the London Stadium. Hammers made a statement of intent with 2 crucial signings during January. West Ham made Seth Benraham's loan move from Championship side, Brentford's permanent, and also welcomed a fresh face of Manchester United in Jesse Lingard. Winners: Liverpool. Jurgen Klopp has been dealing with an injury crisis at Liverpool since the early stage of the Premier League season. Virgil van Dijk and Joe Gomez suffered a long-term injuries earlier in the campaign and have a few more months on the sideline before returning, all but writing for their chances of a comeback this season. However, in dramatic fashion in the 11th hour, Liverpool bought 2 centre-backs to lighten the load on Joel Matip, Jordan Henderson and Fabinho at the back. The Reds signed Schalke's centre-back Ozan Kabak on the loan with an option to buy at the end of the season, and also welcomed PRESTON centre-back Ben Davies in a £2 million deal. Winners: Arsenal. For Mikel Arteta, this window had a much greater focus on outgoings than bringing in new talent to the Emirates Stadium. After 7 seasons with the Gunners, midfielder MESUT OZIL waved goodbye to the capital in a long-awaited move to Turkish side Fenerbahce, and with him also vanished his £35 lakh per week wages, a huge positive for Arsenal. The club also managed to ship off out-of-favour centre-back Sokratis and Shordan Mustafi. It was all goodbye for the Gunners as they welcomed Martin Odegaard on the loan from Real Madrid until the end of the season. Losers: Tottenham. Unlike their North London rivals, Tottenham have been incredibly inactive during the January transfer window. They have not signed a single new player this month, and while Jose Mourinho may be satisfied with his current squad, there are some moves that really should have happened the other way. Dele Alli has been on the fringes of Mourinho's side, and a move to France would have seemingly benefited everyone involved. Losers: Newcastle. Steve Bruce has endured a tough few months of scrutiny for his tactic and play style, and his transfer window provides Bruce with a great opportunity to relieve some of the pressure he has been put under and get the fans back on the side. But the clubs have seen just one new face through the door: Joy Willock. The young Arsenal midfielder could prove to be a handy bit of business, but is nowhere a near proven top 5 player yet. Sports Desk, DD India.
The latest postponement of the Test series between Australia and South Africa have shaken up the ICC World Test Championship scenario. While India and New Zealand are the first and second teams in the ICC WTC standing, Australia had a chance to qualify for the summit clash had their tour of South Africa gone ahead. However, now Australia's chances stand slim given India's impeccable record at home when they are facing England in a 4-match test series. Sports 360 takes a look at the qualification scenario for each team.
New Zealand became the first team to qualify for the final of the inaugural edition of the World Test Championship. The development comes after Australia postponed their tour of South Africa, wherein they were scheduled to play 3 test matches due to COVID-19 fears. Australia's chances of making it to the Lord's final in June have taken a big hit as they have to rely on other results to go their way. As of February 2nd, 2021, India are on top of the World Test Championship table with 71.7% of points. New Zealand, who are at the second spot with 70 PCT, have confirmed their place in the final as they will not drop further after completing their quota of matches in the current WTC cycle. Australia are at the third spot with a PCT of 69.2, but they won't be able to leapfrog New Zealand following the postponement of the 3-test series in South Africa. India and England have their destiny in their own hands as they meet in a 4-test series, which will be the last assignment in the ongoing World Test Championship cycle. For India to qualify, it's a straightforward equation for India. Virat Kohli's men will have to win at least 2 matches out of the upcoming 4 and not lose the other 2 matches of the series. They can qualify even with a 2-1 result against England in the home series. However, if they lose 2 matches, they will be knocked out of the race for the World Test Championship final. India will be through to the WTC final if they win the England series by the following margins: 4-0, 3-0, 3-1, 2-0, 2-1. For England to qualify, England need to win big in the series against India. Joe Root's men need to at least win 3 matches and afford to lose only 1 match. Any of the following series scorelines will see England leapfrogging India and making it to the final: 4-0, 3-0, 3-1. For Australia to qualify, Australia should hope none of the above possibilities become a reality. If the India-England series is drawn, then Australia will go through to the final. Or if India loses more than 2 matches or England doesn't manage to win at least 3 matches, Tim Paine's team will head to Lord's for the final. ICC had restructured the World Test Championship qualification system as they introduced PCT system to determine the standings. The matches that are cancelled or postponed due to COVID-19 will be considered as null and void.
Now let's take a look at the points table of the ICC Test Championships. Here, an interesting situation is seen in the World Test Championship points table. India, New Zealand, Australia and England are the top 4 teams here, and New Zealand has already qualified for the final at Lord's, and because after the postponement of the Australia tour of South Africa, and New Zealand has already qualified. Now 3 teams are remaining here: India, Australia and England, and the result of the series between India and England will be the crucial factor. If India wins the series by a margin of 2-0, India will qualify, and a big task for the England team. They need to win the series by a margin of 3-0, and the chances of Australia will depend upon the result of the series between India and England. If the series between India and England ends in a draw, then Australia will qualify for the ICC World Test Championship final, and the chances are looking very slim as because India are a dominant force at home in Test cricket. So we can say that interesting situation is here, and the final at Lord's will be a big event in the history of cricket. Now moving to the next story, the sporting world has managed to overcome the COVID-19 pandemic by creating a bio-bubbles. These are sanitized areas that can be accessed only by a certain set of people who are not infected with the virus. From the Indian Premier League to the US Open and the NBA tournaments have taken place in the last year using this strategy. The flip side, however, is the psychological impact it has on the sports person. The bubble entails being confined to the certain areas and limits who one can meet and interact with.
Sport has adapted in many ways to these unprecedented times in order to bring fans a viable product during the pandemic. One of these adaptations has been the emergence of biosecure bubbles for competitions or even leagues themselves. But the concept of being constantly locked away in isolation for long periods of time has had its critics. And some of the effects of biosecure bubbles on athletes are starting to emerge. Psychologists have called for better support for cricketers' mental well-being as they head into a second year confined to biosecure bubbles around the world. Cricket's long tours away from home and family have often caused problems in the past, but the restrictions of quarantine and bubble life are posing extra difficulties.
When we talk about biobubble in sports, we need to keep in mind the complexities that are involved. To begin with, we are talking about competitive sports. We are talking about professionals who are there to perform at their optimal levels, and we can understand the kind of pressure that brings in to perform at their best all the times. So that's there. Besides that, many of these sports persons, they are playing away from their home. They might be playing in a different state or at times in a different country. And many times these trips can be for extended periods, maybe for a few weeks or even a few months. And in that case, we need to understand that these sports persons, they are away from their homes, they are away from the environment that they are familiar with, they are no longer with their friends, with the usual support system that they used to have, the family members, the loved ones. And then when we talk all this in context of biobubble, we are talking about a situation where there is a sports person who is away from the home, is there preparing to perform at the optimum level all the time, and then there are restrictions because of the biobubble. And these restrictions are not there only on the field or only on the pitch. They are there in the dressing rooms, they are there in the hotels. So you need to follow those guidelines, those recommendations.
England's John Bairstow has said he spent just 6 nights at home in the second half of last year. Indian fast bowler Mohammad Siraj missed his father's funeral after deciding to stay in Australia in quarantine with his teammates in November. Sports psychologists and psychiatrists have warned of the toll being taken on players and said there is a stigma over coming forward, particularly in Asian nations.
During these times, they have to rely primarily on technology to communicate or to connect with the world around them. So we can understand that when we are talking about biobubble in sports, we are talking about a complex situation. We are talking about a situation where there is an increase in potential sources of stress, and at the same time we are also talking about a situation where the usual support systems, they might not work that they used to work earlier. So we can expect that in these situations, sport persons are going through a very different kind of a stress, both qualitatively as well as quantitatively. But we need to remember, biobubble is primarily aimed at ensuring the safety of the sports person. So if we keep that fact in mind, then we need to identify the ways in which we can help these sports person deal with this stress using certain additional mechanisms during these times.
The aim of a biobubble is to keep cricket teams relatively isolated from the outside world so as to greatly minimize the risk of COVID infection. Players who play high-pressure games have not been getting the opportunity to cool down due to the presence of this bubble. Regular testing is also quite an added load on their shoulders. Sports Desk, DD India.
Fit India has become a mass fitness movement across the country. Union Minister of State for Youth Affairs and Sports Kiren Rijiju inaugurated Fit India office in New Delhi. During the inauguration ceremony, he said Fit India movement is just playing the role of a catalyst. More in this report.
The Fit India mission was launched by Honorable Prime Minister Narendra Modi on 29th August 2019, and in a short period of time, it has become a mass fitness movement across the country. Union Minister of Youth Affairs and Sports Kiren Rijiju on Friday 3rd inaugurated the new Fitness India Mission office in New Delhi. During the inauguration ceremony, he said, Fit India movement is just playing the role of catalyst and it has become a truly people's movement as envisioned by the Honorable Prime Minister.
भारत सरकार का कोई कार्यक्रम पीपल्स मूवमेंट बना या लोगों ने अडॉप्ट किया तो ये फिट इंडिया मूवमेंट है। इसको सचमुच में जन समर्थन और जन भागीदारी दोनों हम कह सकते हैं.
Nearly 70 lakh NYKS and Ananas youth volunteer have been in the forefront of reaching out to people and not only helping them but also creating awareness about Fit India mission. Fit India's plan is to incorporate more villages. This year around 60 to 70 lakh youth affair volunteers take fitness to all. Sharing information on this year's sports budget, the sports minister said that in 2020-21 and 2022, he has got Rs 1,960.14 crore, which is 19.13% more than the previous budget. The ministry is helping every Olympic player to train according to his needs.
Any player who wants to get trained in foreign country, they are provided. Any player or any federation require a particular coach at any particular rate, we provide fund. There's no pending of any kind of demand made by the athletes or the federation.
Although 2020 may have gone to the corner, but in 2021, the player is ready to write a new prayer as Olympic Games are to be organized this year and Fit India will be able to make a big contribution to it. Sports Desk, DD India.
And now it's time for the 20 updates from the sporting world. England captain Joe Root continues his terrific run of form with a double 100 against India in his 100th test. The turn at the Chippewa was his 20th in the longest format of the game, with 3 of those have come in the last 3 appearances. This is the first time in the history that a cricketer has scored century in his 98, 99 and 100 test match. The proposed 3-match test series between South Africa and Australia, a part of the ICC World Test Championship, has been postponed, with the Cricket Australia citing COVID-19 situation in South Africa as a deterrent reason. Up to 50% of the seats at the MH Stadium will be allowed to be filled with the spectators for the second test between India and England. The third and fourth tests in Ahmedabad will also have fans in stadium. ICC announced a 3-player shortlist of the Men's and Women's Player of the Month awards. Rishabh Pant makes the shortlist for his heroics with bat in Australia, and Joe Root finds himself in the mix with after series-winning efforts in Sri Lanka. Bangladesh left-handed opener Tamim Iqbal has now become the only cricketer in the world to have scored the most runs in all 3 formats, Tests, ODI and T20s for a country. Playing in his 61st test for Bangladesh, Tamim has now scored 4,414 runs with 9 centuries. Ashok Dinda, one of the most consistent quick bowlers in country of the domestic cricket of India for the past 1.5 decade, brought down curtains on his career. Dinda, who has 420 first-class wickets in his bag, has also played 13 ODIs and 9 T20s for India, taking 12 and 17 wickets. Union Minister for Sports and Youth Affairs Kiren Rijiju inaugurated Fit India office in New Delhi. During the inauguration ceremony, he said Fit India movement is just playing the role of catalyst in Indian sports arena. Ajay Singh defeated Ashish Shalar in a high-profile contest to get re-elected as the President of Boxing Federation of India for a second term at the general election held in Gurugram. Badminton Asian Mixed Team Championship cancelled amid COVID-19 pandemic. Badminton Asia said the timing of the championship, which are not part of the Tokyo Olympic qualification process, was also a contributing factor for its decision. England batsman Jack Crowley has been ruled out of the first 2 test matches against India due to wrist injury. Crowley, aged 23, slipped on a marble floor outside the dressing room during training ahead of the 4 test series match against India. Antoine Griezmann led the Barcelona back from the brink as the Catalans beat Granada 5-3 after extra time to reach the Copa del Rey semi-finals. Manchester United equalled their Premier League record win as the Southampton found themselves on the wrong end of a 9-0 scoreline once again. Cristiano Ronaldo scored twice to help Juventus fight back to win 2-1 at the Inter Milan in the first leg of their Italian Cup semi-final. Ronaldo netted a penalty and took advantage of a horrendous defensive error. Real Madrid manager Zinedine Zidane has demanded respect from the journalists and says his side are still in the La Liga title race. Reigning champions Real sit third, 10 points behind leaders Atletico Madrid, but having played a game more. Rafael Nadal has withdrawn from the opening match of the ATP Cup due to back pain. However, he is likely to return to the Spanish team this week. Olympic officials unveiled the first of many COVID-19 rules for the Tokyo Games, banning singing and chanting during the events, mandating participants to wear masks at all times except when eating, sleeping or outdoors. Britain's Laura Muir will not attempt to win a European indoor double for the third year running as she focuses on preparing for the Tokyo Olympics. The 27-year-old defended her 1500 meter and 3000 meter titles in Glasgow 2 years ago. Bayern Munich head to the Club World Cup with the 5 successive wins under their belt after Kingsley Coman's first half winner handed Bundesliga leaders a 1-0 victory at Hertha Berlin. The win leaves Bayern 10 points clear of the second place RB Leipzig. Britain's 200-meter champion Dina Asher-Smith picked up her second indoor victory over 60 meter in Germany. The 25-year-old clocked 7.12 seconds to finish ahead of the Switzerland's Agila Del Ponte. And in rugby's Six Nations, Scotland can fancy themselves for a first win at Twickenham since 1983 against an England side missing several leaders up front, says former British and Irish Lions winger Ugo Money. Antoine Griezmann scored 2 goals and provided 2 assists as Barcelona staged a stunning last gasp comeback before beating runner-up final. Griezmann is Sports 360 Player of the Week. Now it's time for the goal of the week. Pep Guardiola's side go 3 points clear at the top of the Premier League table. Gabriel Jesus opened the scoring after just 3 minutes with a beautiful header. And this is Sports 360 Goal of the Week. This week in 1980, Larry Holmes knocked out Lorenzo Zanon in a 6th round of her heavyweight boxing title. Known for his famous left jab, he was the WC heavyweight champion from 1978 to 1983. His 20 successful title defenses are the second only to Joe Louis's 25, and in this segment this week that year. And that's all in this edition of Sports 360. Before we wrap up, we leave you with the images of the time-lapse showing conversion of the Beijing Winter Olympic venues. Namaskar.